look at the 7 bowl judgments. Now, this is the last of the 3 series of judgments during the 7-year tribulation. And these judgments are terrifying and they are horrible. And they are the worst of the 3 series of judgments. Now, in the number 7 bowl judgment, where God sent the biggest ever earthquake and rained down the biggest ever hailstorm on the face of the earth, the city of Babylon is mentioned. All right, in that 7 bowl judgment narrative, the city of Babylon is mentioned. We read that in Revelation chapter 16 and verse 19. The great city wall was split into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And God remembered Babylon, not with fondness. God remembered Babylon the Great to make her drain the cup of the wine of the fury of his wrath. Now, if you remember, when we were going through in one sermon, the 7 bowl judgments, I didn't mention anything at all about Babylon. I didn't say anything at all, not even in passing, because the topic of Babylon is a very big topic. So I'll do injustice to the topic itself. If I just mention certain things, you won't get anything at all. You won't have any head or any tail concerning it. Now, anyway, we're going to spend a fair bit of time in the next couple of sermons, in the next few weeks, on this topic of Mystery Babylon. And Revelation chapters 17 and 18 focus exclusively on this subject matter of Babylon. Now, this subject matter occupies the most space in the book of Revelation. Okay, you think the 666 occupy a lot of space, you think the judgment occupy a lot of space, Pacific judgment, but really, the topic of Mystery Babylon occupies the most space in the book of Revelation. Out of the 404 verses in the book of Revelation, 44 of them are about Babylon. And Babylon is also the most mentioned city, or rather the most mentioned city in the Bible, in the entire Bible, after Jerusalem. Not the most mentioned city, the most mentioned city after Jerusalem. Jerusalem is mentioned 806 times in the entire Bible, 667 times in the Old Testament, and 139 times in the New Testament. Whereas Babylon is mentioned 288 times. Okay, it is 1/3 of the time, but that is a lot. Okay, concerning an infamous city with a lot of infamous association with tyrants, bad kings, and demonic entities and fallen angelic entities, and so on. Now, Babylon's significance cannot be underestimated. The reason is very simple. While Jerusalem is God's holy city, and that place and that location whereby our Lord Jesus Christ will establish his millennial kingdom headquarters, Babylon is everything that is antithetical to the city of Jerusalem. Babylon is everything that is opposed to the city of Babylon, to the city of Jerusalem. Okay, metaphorically, Babylon also represents a system of politics, religions, and commerce that is anti-God. Babylon is the city where the Tower of Babel was built. All right, Babylon is the city where the Tower of Babel was built. The name Babylon is translated, the English word Babylon is translated from the Greek, from Greek, whereas Babel is translated from Aramaic and Hebrew. This was the place. This was the place where mankind organized the biggest rebellion against the Almighty God, against the rule of God. So as you can see, the history of Babylon goes back a long time, all the way back to about 200 years after the flood that wiped out the entire humanity. I'm referring to the time of Noah, 200 years after the time of Noah. The title of my sermon today is Mystery Babylon and the Scarlet Beast. Mystery Babylon and the Scarlet Beast. This is part 1 of the sermon. Okay, many things to say, even in chapter 17 itself. This is part 1 of the sermon. In today's sermon, I am not going into the details of the passage found in Revelation chapter 17. Although we're going to read it later, I will unpack the details in the next 2 sermons. So instead, today, I'm going to give you a general view of Jerusalem, of Babylon, what Babylon and what the subject matter of Mystery Babylon is all about. Now, Mystery Babylon is not just a big topic. It is a complex topic. It is extremely complicated. Few passages in the Bible are more mysterious and perplexing than Revelation chapter 17 and 18. Okay, hear me, all right? Chapters 17 and 18 are the most complicated and complex chapters found in the book of Revelation. Not just for me, but for a lot of people, including the prophecy experts, theologians, Bible scholars, and so on. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it is the most difficult topic. Okay, it is the most difficult topic. I've spent over the years reading about it, and I find it very complex. I find it very puzzling. I find it very, very complicated to understand. And as we go along, you'll understand why. Not just in this sermon, but in the next few sermons. Okay, you realize that this subject matter is really difficult to grasp. So I think it's good that I give you a general sense. I give you a general feel of what Mystery Babylon is about in today's sermon. And so that's what I'm going to do today. After that, after we have the big picture, then in the next few sermons, we will drill down into the details. We'll unpack the details in the next few sermons. Okay, is that okay with everyone? Sounds good? Okay, that's how we deal with complicated topics. We take a little bit more time. We take we take the effort to make more detailed explanation. Now, the first mention of Babylon in the book of Revelation is found in Revelation chapter 14 and verse 8. It says here, another angel, a second, followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who make all nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality." Now, the angel here proclaimed that Babylon is falling. But the context is not given. The context is not provided at all in this particular passage. What is Babylon? What does Babylon or Mystery Babylon represent? No clue is given. All that is said here is Babylon is fallen. It is better understood as Babylon is going to fall. That is a proclamation, that is a declaration that Babylon will fall after the next series of judgment. Okay, so that's what it means there. The next mention of Babylon is found in chapter 16. We read about that in my last sermon, where the number 7 bowl of plate is poured on the earth. And we have read that verse earlier. It says, "And God remembered Babylon the Great, to make her drain the cup of the wine of the fury of his wrath." Now, immediately after this, we come to Revelation chapter 17 and 18, where we are given a big chunk of information and details concerning Babylon or concerning Mystery Babylon. So let us now read Revelation chapter 17 in its entirety to get a feel of what Mystery Babylon is all about. Although I'm not going to unpack it today, but I'm going to read the entire chapter so that you'll get a good feel of what Mystery Babylon is all about. So Revelation chapter 17, we're going to read from verses 1 all the way to verse 18. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, and the me is John, of course, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on the scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. But the angel said to me, why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was and is not, and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. And the dwellers on earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will marvel to see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. There are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. 1 is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain for a little while, only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns that you saw are the 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over the power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, they are the beasts. They and the beasts will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. Well, what do you think of the passage? No sweat, easy to understand, right? Pastor, I don't think you need to preach, okay? We understand it perfectly. Anyway, this is the book of Revelation. God is unveiling and revealing things. So you realize that when you go through the book of Revelation, it is really puzzling. And this one is combining with the 10 horns, and then with mountains and with sea and with waters and everything. This is really complex. Okay, this is really complex. And as I move along, you realize that the little bit more you realize that it is extremely complex and difficult to understand. Now I'm going to read verse 5 of chapter 17 once again, but this time in the NIV translation. The title was written on her forehead, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. Mystery Babylon the Great. The phrase here, the description of the woman is Mystery Babylon the Great. The question is, why Mystery Babylon? Why not just Babylon? But why is it called Mystery Babylon? Why is the word mystery there as a prefix for Babylon? Why mystery? Now, this is what this sermon is going to be really about as I try to use 3 thoughts. I'm going to give you 3 thoughts, and these 3 thoughts will really frame this whole thing to give you a good sense of what Mystery Babylon is in the broad picture, in the macro picture, not in detail, but in the macro picture. First, the whole thing about Babylon is complex. It is like a reader. It is difficult to understand. I know that many people are baffled, including theologians, including prophecy experts. Many people are just baffled by this entire thing called Mystery Babylon. Now, I've read books, commentaries, and articles over the years about Mystery Babylon. Different people say different things about these topics, and they have different views and opinions. Sometimes these differences can be really very wide, very, very sharp. Now, truth be told, there are many pieces of jigsaw to this puzzle of Mystery Babylon. Even if you understand the different pieces of the jigsaw very well, okay, assuming you understand very well, it is difficult when you try to fit them together to form a coherent picture. Okay, the whole thing, the whole exercise is a challenge. Also, certain pieces of the jigsaw is esoteric. It is difficult to understand. The trails lead to conspiracies, occult practices, and secret society. Heard of the Illuminati and Freemasonry? I think some of you have heard, but some of you people will dismiss that completely. Okay? Not many people can accept this reality, and so they dismiss all these things altogether. But according to the Tower of Babel account, the top of the tower is in the heavens. Is in the heavens, not just the sky, but in the second heaven. There's a dimension where fallen angels and demons dwell and operate. It is widely accepted that Babylon is the origin. It is the source of all false religious systems, idolatry, demonic and fallen angelic worship, and the occult. And therefore, the link to the occult and secret society cannot be easily dismissed. That have to be taken into consideration. But it's a topic that's so complex that I won't even attempt to talk about it. It can become very controversial, and at least not at this season, not at this point, I will talk about these things. Personally, I find Mystery Babylon to be the most complicated and challenging subject in eschatology and the book of Revelation. I know that I've said it earlier, I've repeated it because I just want to put the emphasis there. So if you're struggling, you are not alone, all right? If you wonder about this thing all this time, you're not alone. But I'll do my best to tackle this subject and to explain it as clearly and as simply as I know how to do it. So first, Babylon is a mystery because it is complex. It is a reader. Second, the word mystery in Greek can either mean secret or hidden. In other words, the truth about Babylon is hidden. It is not readily understood. It is not easily understood. Though there are many, many passages about Babylon in the New Testament, like in the book of Isaiah, the deeper truth about this entity is hidden. But now, in Revelation chapter 17 and 18, the truth about Babylon is unveiled. It is being revealed. It is just like the topic of rapture. Okay, it is a mystery. Do you know that the rapture is a mystery? Okay, it is a mystery. Paul called it a mystery. The rapture is mentioned in the Old Testament, like in the book of Isaiah, but it has never been clearly, it is not clearly stated, and it has never been clearly understood. Most people don't even realize that rapture is mentioned. I mean, not the word rapture, but the idea of rapture is mentioned in the Old Testament scripture. But it is revealed in the New Testament scripture. Now, while discussing the resurrection of the dead in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, the Apostle Paul says this, and we read 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. That's referring to the rapture of those people that were still alive that are still alive at that time. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and all the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. Now, the truth about the rapture and the resurrection of the dead is hidden during the Old Testament. During the Old Testament time, is hidden in the past, but it is revealed by God to the Apostle Paul in the New Testament era. So here in Revelation 17 and 18, the mystery of Babylon is revealed to the Apostle John. Okay? Though mystery Babylon is now revealed, I will have to concede that it is still difficult to understand. It's been revealed now, but it is still difficult to comprehend fully. As you can see, the language used is metaphorical. It is figurative. It is in picture form, meaning to say that it is a kind of a coded language, and therefore it still needs deciphering, and therefore it is not easy to understand. Now, though we have better clarity now, we still cannot be absolutely certain about this topic. The same goes for the mystery of rapture. And that is the reason why prophecy scholars, theologians, commentators, and so on have different views of mystery Babylon, and sometimes vastly different views. Maybe we will have better clarity when mystery Babylon is manifested in sort of its full form, in its very, very direct form in the future. Okay, I don't think it will happen only in the 7-year tribulation. Prior to that, we will see that manifestation becoming clearer and clearer. And you will see at the later part of the sermon, I will give you one example of the present reality of mystery Babylon. Now, another difficulty is connecting what is said in these two chapters to reality, to the real world, to what is currently happening. All right, it is difficult to do that connection. Now, in studying eschatology and Bible prophecies concerning the end time, I often say that we have to do connecting the dots. It involves a fair amount of sanctified imagination. We have to connect the dots from the scripture to the current events and developments that is going on around us in the world, right? And the subject of mystery Babylon is so esoteric that it is difficult to make all this connection. It is very difficult to connect these dots. And even if you manage to connect some of the dots, it is very difficult. It is very hard to convince people of this connection. Many people will find difficult to believe and accept these connections because the truth can be so bizarre. The truth is not something that is in a mainstream narrative. The truth is something that is not of the natural realm. The truth is supernatural. The truth is really spiritual. And therefore, many people, including believers, unfortunately, will find that connection to be very, very challenging. Whether to believe or whether to accept, they will find it to be extremely challenging. Now, speaking about connecting the dots, to understand mystery Babylon, we have to connect the dots to its ancient historical reality, and also to its present reality, so that we can get a good sense of what may occur in the future when the prostitute rides the scarlet beast. That is, when the Antichrist collaborates with mystery Babylon. Okay, that is mentioned in the passage that we have just read. One day, the Antichrist will work hand in hand. It will incorporate mystery Babylon into its empire, into its system of governance, in politics, in religion, and also in commerce. That's what is going to happen according to chapter 17 of the book of Revelation. Now, by ancient historical reality, I'm referring to the story of the Tower of Babel. Ancient historical reality, I'm referring to the story of the Tower of Babel. By the way, the story of the Tower of Babel is a real story. It is not metaphorical. It is a real story, just like the flood during Noah's time. It is a real story. It is literal. It actually happened. So don't take it figuratively. Don't take it metaphorically. Now let's read Genesis chapter 11. I'm going to read the first 4 verses. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they have bricks, and they have brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they say, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." First, let's get the geographical setting of where the Tower of Babel is situated. It is in Babel, of course, right? And I mentioned earlier that Babel is Babylon. Babylon is translated from Greek, and Babel is translated from Hebrew. Okay, and the land of Shinar that is mentioned here, that these early people in ancient civilization migrated to, is the land of Shinar, and that is Babylon. That is Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel is built barely 200 years after the flood that devastated that destroyed the entire world during Noah's time. And very quickly you realize that mankind decided that they would reject God, that they would ditch God, that they didn't want Him to be in their lives. So, of course, there was a leader in this audacious attempt to overthrow God's sovereign rule over humanity. And this person is named Nimrod. He's mentioned in Genesis chapter 10. All right, it's Nimrod. And we learn that one of his kingdoms was located in Babel. That is Babylon. Okay, that is in Genesis chapter 10. I'm not making this thing up. All these things you can find in the scripture. The building of the Tower of Babel is a rebellion against God. Very clearly, it is a rebellion against God. You see, God wanted mankind to be fruitful and multiply and fill the entire earth. Okay, and then the flood happened. And this mandate, this initial creation mandate was reiterated to Noah after the flood, when humankind will begin once again. All right, so this is a very important mandate, to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. But the people rejected this idea. Okay, we just read. The people rejected this idea. And that is one of the reasons that they built the Tower of Babel. Let me read that again in verse 4. "Lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." All right? So another reason for building the Tower of Babel is their pride and hubris. And we read that again, all right, in the verse earlier. "Let us make a name for ourselves." Now, basically, they want to make a name for themselves apart from God. Make a name for themselves apart from God. Okay, essentially, they were saying, we don't need God to be in our lives. We can make it in this life on our own. We don't want God's interference in our life. That's what they want. They wanted to do things without God interfering them. They wanted to be independent from God. They wanted self-rule. They wanted self-government. Okay, so essentially, that's what they want to do when they say we want to make a name for ourselves. Another reason, a third reason for building the tower is their desire to seek other gods. Is their desire to seek other gods. Okay, and the verse there is, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens." With its top in the heaven. Now, it is widely accepted that the Tower of Babel is a temple complex known as a ziggurat. Okay, some of you who do a little bit of history, you understand this. And theologians and scholars basically agree, all right? This is not a point of contention. It is a temple complex known as a ziggurat. It is a four-sided pyramidal structure with its top reaching into the heavens. Okay? Now, we have modern buildings that go much higher than a ziggurat. It is a big structure, a tall structure during that time, but definitely it's not as tall as our building nowadays. Okay, so the idea here of it reaching into the heavens is reaching into another dimension, into the spiritual dimension where the gods are. Okay, I'm using the word gods, all right? People who are here for a while, you understand that the Bible does use the word gods, and these are the Elohim, all right, referring to the other gods. These are fallen angelic entities. These are not demons. These are higher level and the divine entities. These are fallen angelic entities. All right. Okay. So what happened is that the people at the Tower of Babel rejected the created God to go after created divine beings. They rejected the one true God for the lesser gods, for the divine beings, for these other what we call in the Bible the sons of God, the fallen angelic entities. So that's why Mystery Babylon is described as the great prostitute and the mother of prostitute. Okay, in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, defection from God to the other gods is always is often likened as adultery and prostitution. Okay, they don't use the word spiritual adultery, spiritual prostitution. But when the prophets indicted the people, when the prophets speak against the people for seeking other God, they are always using words like, you have committed adultery, you have committed harlotry or prostitution. These are the words used often by the prophets in the Old Testament. Now, put all these motives behind the building of the Tower of Babel together, and you get the picture, okay, of Mystery Babylon as an anti-God system that encompasses politics, religion, and commerce. And the ultimate goal is control and domination of humanity. The ultimate goal is control and domination of humanity. And in Revelation chapter 17, you see the manifestation of religious and political Babylon. In chapter 18, you see the manifestation of commercial Babylon. So in chapter 17 and 18, all right, the visions of John cover the three branches or the three spheres of Mystery Babylon. Basically politics, religion, and commerce. We'll get into that in detail over the next couple of sermons. So finally, you realize as you read by the end of chapter 18 that God will completely destroy Mystery Babylon, completely destroy in its entirety. This is a system. Why? Because this is a system that enslaves humanity. God is going to free humanity from the unrighteousness, from the injustice of the human system, of the gods, and so on. Okay, and that really fit in to the whole idea that at the end, during the second coming, Jesus returned, and thereafter he will tabernacle among men by building the millennial kingdom, and he will rule over the entire world in justice and in righteousness. So I've just talked about the ancient reality, the ancient historical reality of Babylon. Now next, I'm going to talk about the historical reality. So we have ancient historical reality. Now I want to talk about the historical reality that is not so ancient, okay? It's still historical but not so ancient. The Church of Jesus Christ has an unfortunate history during the Middle Ages or the medieval period, which stretched for more than 1,000 years, sometime between AD 400 to AD 1500. The church became apostate during this time, meaning to say that the church moved away from the fundamental teachings of the scripture, of the Bible. Now, during this time, the church incorporated many pagan beliefs and practices, which, with some with very direct ancient Babylonian links. It also introduced many corrupt practices that took advantage of the largely uneducated masses. The church then was also politically very powerful. It was involved in all manners of politics, including wars. Even kings and princes were afraid of the church. Okay, they were afraid of the popes and the cardinals. The royalty often had to consult the church for major decisions. The kings, the princes, they cannot make decisions themselves. They have to seek the blessing of the church. They have to discuss with the church. They have to talk with the church before they will make certain decisions. Otherwise, the church may resist, and they might resist, and if they are not happy, there's going to be a lot of politics, a lot of fighting, a lot of unpleasant things happening, right? Now, the church influence, as you can see, stretched from the ruling class down to the ordinary people during this period of time. And during this period, the church also became very wealthy, extremely wealthy, because it was involved in commercial enterprises and corrupt practices, okay, including corrupt religious practices. It also persecuted and killed true believers who dare to question its wrong and corrupt practices. The apostate church in the medieval period had all the marks and imprints of mystery Babylon. And that is the reason why there are scholars, there are prophecy experts that link mystery Babylon to the apostate church. Okay, that is a way of looking at it, and it is a historical reality anyway. All right. So it bears the mark. The apostate church in the medieval stage bears all the marks and imprints of mystery Babylon as described in Revelation chapter 17. The words of the first few verses of Revelation 17 are an apt description of the apostate church. I'm going to read that again, all right? But in a simpler translation in NIV, so that you can make the link. So verse 2 of Revelation 17 in NIV, we've heard the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries. And then we move to verses 5 and 6 of Revelation 17. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls, rich, wealthy, right? She held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of adulteries. This title was written on her forehead: Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. So I've just talked to you about the historical reality of Mystery Babylon, and earlier I talked to you about the ancient historical reality. Now we want to look at the present reality of Mystery Babylon. We want to look at the manifestation of Mystery Babylon in the present time. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to pose a question. Okay, I'm going to pose a question. What if I tell you that Mystery Babylon is manifesting itself in the political and economic grouping that is called the European Union, the EU? Okay, how many of us know about the EU, the European Union? Okay, I think all of us, okay, most of us should know about the European Union. Is the EU, okay? The European Union has 27 member states to date. It is a powerful grouping with a vast influence over global affairs and international finance and banking. The geographical location of the EU member states is where the ancient Roman Empire occupied. Right? As most of us know, the Antichrist and his final world empire is going to rise from the ashes of the ancient Roman Empire. Okay, one of the meaning is that it will come from that geographical location, which is around the Mediterranean area where Western Europe, where Europe is today. All right, that is where the Antichrist and the one world government will emerge. Now, and this is something that is is generally accepted by prophecy experts and scholars, right? So we also read from today's text that the Antichrist and his one world government has a close and symbiotic relationship with Mystery Babylon. The Antichrist and the one world government and his one world government has a close and symbiotic relationship with Mystery Babylon. They interact closely with one another for mutual benefits. Okay, I pluck out the verse for you, Revelation 17:3. And it carried me away in the spirit into wilderness, and I saw a woman, the prostitute, all right, the mother of harlots, and that is Mystery Babylon. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. So who is the woman? Mystery Babylon. Who is the scarlet beast? That is the Antichrist. That is the Antichrist. Mystery Babylon is sitting on the Antichrist. Okay, it is a metaphor, okay, showing us that there is this close relationship between the Antichrist and Mystery Babylon. So let's go back to the question that I asked earlier. What if I tell you that Mystery Babylon is manifesting itself in the political and economic grouping known as the European Union, the EU? Let me show you some photos and pictures to prove my point, to prove what I'm trying to say. Now, can we put up the photo? Now, this is a photo of the European Union building, of the European Union Parliament building in Strasbourg, France. Okay, it was built in 1998. It is a nice building with a modern-looking architecture. But the inspiration for this building is actually taken from an ancient building that is drawn by a famous Renaissance painter. And that painter is renowned, and his name is Pieter Bruegel. And that building, that old ancient building, is the Tower of Babel. The old building is the Tower of Babel. All right? Now, let me show you a picture of the painting and the photo of the EU Parliament building placed side by side. Okay, do you think they look similar? Do you think they look quite alike? I know what some of you might be thinking. Pastor, I didn't know you're conspiracy theories. Huh? I didn't know that you believe in such nonsense, such conspiracy theories. There is indeed some semblance, okay? Granted, Pastor, I give it to you. There's some semblance. But I think it is purely coincidental. I think that will come to the mind of a number of people. Okay? The question, and you will ask, why would the European Union want to model their parliament building after the infamous Tower of Babel? Why would they want to do it? It's a crazy idea, right? No one in their right mind would want to do that. Okay, now let me show you another picture. All right, this is the EU poster. The European Union released this poster in 1992 to promote the organization. Now, this is clearly a replica of the Tower of Babel, taken once again from Pieter Bruegel's famous painting in 1563, painted in 1563. Okay? Now, let me put this poster side by side with the painting of Pieter Bruegel. Okay, you put them side by side, you look at this. Do they look the same? Okay, and I can tell you that there were interviews at that time, back in the early 90s, about whether this EU Parliament building in Strasbourg in France is a model, all right, is inspired from the Tower of Babel. And the officials there basically say yes. All right, they say yes, they admitted to it. They drew their inspiration. The architecture drew the inspiration from the Tower of Babel. All right? So, are you convinced now? Okay, I mean, it is from the horse's mouth, and I got this poster and the painting placed side by side. They look almost the same. All right? They are not same, they look almost the same. Now, I want you to know that this is not a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy, but not a conspiracy theory. It is a cosmic level conspiracy. It is a spiritual conspiracy of the highest degree. Now, if you observe carefully, Brugger intentionally painted the Tower of Babel as uncompleted. It wasn't the completed Tower of Babel. It was uncompleted. All right? It accurately depicted the Tower of Babel as we read in Genesis chapter 11. Before Nimrod and his gang could finish building the Tower of Babel, God came down, God confused their language, and after that, God scattered them, God dispersed them, right? So the building was left uncompleted. So Peter Brugger, the Renaissance painter, intentionally painted the Tower of Babel as incomplete, okay? As incomplete. It is still not in the process. It was stopped halfway. And what does the poster, the EU poster show? Exactly the same thing. An incomplete and uncompleted Tower of Babel. Okay, now take a look at the poster again, the EU poster again. Can we put it up? Take a look at the EU poster again. Can you see that there is a modern equipment in the Tower of Babel? Below the stars on the right. Can you see that? Can you see that? Okay, what is it? Crane, right? Someone say it is a construction crane. Why is the construction crane there? Do you think during the time of Nimrod there is a construction crane? There isn't, right? But this one is shown there. Why is the construction crane there? What do you think the EU is trying to communicate? What do you think the EU is trying to communicate? I think the answer is clear. The EU will complete what Nimrod and the post-flood generation failed to complete. The EU, the European Union, will complete what Nimrod and the post-flood generation failed to complete. It is a message of defiance. God, you stopped the completion of the Tower of Babel a few thousand years ago, but we will do it. We will complete the tower, and you are not going to stop us. It is a message of defiance. Okay, I mean, purposely put a construction crane there, and then, all right, keep the picture there. Take a look at the words in the yellow box at the bottom right-hand corner. Can you read the words there? Europe, many tongues, one voice. Europe, many tongues, one voice. Back to the Tower of Babel story. God confused the language of the people at the Tower of Babel by making them speak in many different tongues to break up their unholy unity. Make them speak in many different languages, different tongues, to break up their unholy unity. But the EU message is a counter-narrative. It's a counter-narrative. Europe, many tongues, one voice. Many tongues, but one voice. The message is clearly intentional, intentionally defiant against God. The people running the EU knew exactly what they were doing. They were shaking their fists at God and defying God in His face. That is exactly what is happening here. All right? It's exactly what is happening here. Now, you would think that most of these European elites are atheists. I believe that most of you will assume that is the case, but obviously they are not. They are spiritually minded, but they are on different side of the divide. Religious or not, they are clearly inspired and led by the devil. They have the same aspiration as the devil. They want to see a completed Tower of Babel, metaphorically speaking. They want to see a completed Tower of Babel. Now, these European elites are standing with Satan. They are standing against God. I think, probably or most likely, they are occultists. Okay, remember what I say about secret societies and occult earlier? The Illuminati, Freemasonry and all that. A lot of these elites are involved in all these secret societies. So, is that part of the inspiration? Probably, perhaps, all right? Now, to think that they dare to defy God so blatantly, their pride and hubris are over the top. They carry the Antichrist spirit of Nimrod. They carry the spirit of Mystery Babylon. And I want I want to keep driving home the point, okay, to convince you, to persuade you, to see that, hey, look, mystery, the spirit of mystery Babylon is already manifesting itself now at the present time, even before the 7-year tribulation. Okay, show you another picture. Okay, this is a photograph of a sculpture of a woman on a bull. And this sculpture is placed outside the EU building in Strasbourg, where the Parliament building is placed outside there. What does it remind you? We just read Revelation 17. What does it remind you? Does it remind you of the woman sitting on the beast? The woman sitting on a bull? The woman sitting on a beast? Okay, in Revelation 17? Okay, now by itself, it might not be. Okay, so don't let your imagination go wild. So I'll say this, by itself, it might not be. But you have to look at it from the larger context. I've just shown you, okay, the Tower of Babel image being replicated in the EU promotional poster and the EU Parliament building. You put all these things together, you cannot run away from it. And right at the Parliament, in front of Parliament building, they put up this sculpture of a woman riding a beast. Okay, take a look at the next photo. Another woman riding on the beast. Now, where is this sculpture found? This is found in the European Union headquarters in Brussels. Okay, in Brussels, that is in Belgium. Okay, it is placed right in the front of the EU Council of Ministers building, in very prominent spot. Okay, they are putting all these sculptures, all these motifs, all these symbols there. There is a reason for that. Okay, there is a reason for that. And the same woman riding on the bull motif is also found in the European Union $2 or €2 coin. Okay, there are many versions of this. Okay, this is the Greek version. The same motif. The prostitute or the woman riding on a beast. Now, of course, it can be argued that this woman is Europa and the beast is Zeus, the chief god of the Greek mythology. But let me say this very quickly. Many Greek mythologies have their origin in the Nephilim story in Genesis chapter 6. Okay, you're hearing me right. Many Greek mythologies have their origin, their source in the Nephilim story in Genesis chapter 6. Put it in another way, the Greek mythologies are a retelling of the ancient tales linked to the Nephilims. The Greek gods are the fallen angels, and the Greek titans are the Nephilim. Okay, it's not a speculation either. The link for people that study mythology and study history is very, very clear. The Greek gods, okay, the Greek gods are the fallen angels. And the titans, the Marvel version of all these Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, okay, they got other new imaginations and all that. These are the titans. These are the Greek titans. Okay, everything goes back to the Nephilim story in Genesis chapter 6. Now, just a question. Is it possible that the devil is preparing the world to accept all these so-called spiritual or supernatural entities as something that is common, as something that, well, when the day comes, people can accept it, right? Because they have been soaked in all these interesting fantasy, sci-fi movies and so on. Is it possible? I think so. Okay? I won't say for sure, but I think so. And many serious prophecy students believe that that is a distinct possibility. Now, just that you know, the continent of Europe is named after this lady called Europa. The lady that's riding on a bull, Europa, all right? But again, as I say earlier, it's all linked back to the Nephilim story in Genesis chapter 6. So is she the great prostitute in Revelation chapter 17? Is she mystery Babylon? I'll leave it to you, all right, to decide. I'll leave it to you to decide. But for me, I will say that it is very hard to dismiss all these symbolisms as purely coincidental or conspiracy theory. Perhaps that's the reason why it is called Mystery Babylon. It is mysterious. It is hidden. Okay? And even when the truth is being said, I know that there'll be some people here is like, yeah, Pastor, I think you make a convincing case. But, I'm figuratively scratching my head right now. Okay? Well, it's fine, but I'm showing you what I think is the manifestation of Mystery Babylon in the present time. And really, it is manifesting in plain sight. You don't even need any spiritual discernment to see the present reality of Mystery Babylon. Now, let me say this again. Mystery Babylon is an anti-God system encompassing politics, religion, and commerce, and it will ultimately link up and collaborate with the Antichrist and his final one-world empire. So we spend a fair bit of time peeling away the mystery of Mystery Babylon by connecting the dots to its ancient historical reality in the Tower of Babel story, in its historical reality in the apostate church during the medieval time, and in its present reality in the European Union. Okay? I'm showing you all the linkages from the origin to the manifestation, one of the manifestation in history, and then in the present time. Now, with this as background, our thoughts and so on, it'll be easier for us to go into the chapter 17 and 18 proper, into all the details and so on, so that you will not be like caught up with the idea that, wow, this is too spiritual, it's difficult to understand, it's too supernatural and so on. Now, this is exactly what it is all about. Okay, the warfare that we are in, that we are fighting in, is a spiritual warfare. It's a supernatural warfare. And as I write in the reflection, the latest reflection, we need to have a biblical worldview, which is necessarily a spiritual worldview, which is necessarily a supernatural worldview. And you have to take account into what bizarre things that can happen, okay, that had happened back in Genesis chapter 1 to 11, and it will be repeated at the end of this present age. And I believe that we are standing at the threshold of the end of this present age. Now, I'd like to highlight one more mystery, and then I'll close today's sermon. I like a couple of other things, all right? I would like to highlight just one more mystery, and then I'll conclude my sermon. It concerns whether Mystery Babylon is a literal city or a metaphorical city, in the sense that it represents a trilateral political, religious, and commercial system, or it is both. All right? And this by itself is a mystery. There are many lively debates over this issue. There are good and solid arguments on both sides of the aisles, and many of these arguments are convincing, they are very persuasive. For me, I lean towards seeing Mystery Babylon as a metaphorical city. I lean towards that, okay? I'm not like 100% into it, but I lean towards the view that Mystery Babylon is metaphorical, it is symbolic, it is a spirit that pervades the political, religious, and commercial spheres in the world, right? But I cannot shake off the fact that it might be a literal city, that it might be an actual city that will be rebuilt in modern Iraq. That is a possibility. And many prophecy scholars believe that, but many reject that as well and believe that it is purely metaphorical. And my question is it one or the other, or can it be both? Can it be both? All right? And I have to say that this is not just an academic debate. We'll talk about this in detail in one of the next few sermons. But this is not just an academic debate. It has practical implications. It has practical implications. Now, looking at Bible prophecies and the current events and development in the world in different spheres, I am very, very convinced that Jesus Christ is coming back soon, very soon. You know, as I go through this series of sermon in Revelation and previously in the Omega series, you can see that I believe that Christ's return is very soon. But, and the reason, all right, before my but, the reason is many Bible prophecies have already been fulfilled. And those that are yet to be fulfilled, the chess pieces are moving very quickly into their places. Okay, if you are aware of what is happening, the chess pieces are moving very quickly into place now. However, all right, there is one thing that prevents me from strenuously exerting that Christ's return can be anytime now. Of course, it can still be anytime now, but I'm not really strongly exerting that it can happen anytime now, and that is the question of Mystery Babylon. That is the question of Babylon. If there is going to be an actual city of Babylon, which will serve as the Antichrist headquarters, then the timeline of Christ's return cannot be soon, as in now, or the immediate few years. Then it will not be possible. I know that it's hard to imagine a modern, cosmopolitan, financial, banking, and commercial city of Babylon rising in Iraq in the near future. It will take years to develop such a city. It will take years for it to become a financial center and so on. So, there's a dilemma. On the one hand, it's soon and very soon. On the other hand, it's like if you're subscribing to this theory, then the soon is maybe perhaps decades down the line, and that really puts people that look at this whole thing deeply in a dilemma. Okay, so the question of whether Babylon is literal or metaphorical puts me in a dilemma. Okay, I can take a strong position in various controversial and difficult topics in the book of Revelation, but this one is very challenging. Although I lean towards that this Mystery Babylon will not be a literal city, but I have to concede that there are enough evidences to suggest that that is a possibility. So, how soon is Jesus' return? How soon is Jesus' return? You want to answer? Only God knows. Only God knows. Only God knows. Meanwhile, let's live with a sense of urgency and anticipation that Jesus Christ is coming back very, very soon. But at the same time, continue to believe and plan for the future as if His return is a long way off. We are always living in that tension. And I think that is the best way to approach biblical prophecy. That is the best way to approach eschatology. Amen.